Stay still!
One of the coolest things about iconic characters is how their lore expands with them as the base of reference, and that's only possible if the first rendition of the character has enough material to use for years to come. The Alien universe, brought in by Ridley Scott, is one such franchise that has a lot of material that can be used and talked about for years to come. Take the character design of the Xenomorph. There are a lot of factors that have actually been removed over the years to work as an adaptive feature for these creatures. One such feature that had a striking appearance was the dorsal tubes on the back of the beast, which were also called the dorsal fins. Over the years, we've seen less and less of this feature, but it still remains to be the center of major interest. Let's take a look at the mysterious dorsal tubes of the Xenomorphs, and why they might just be one of the most underrated features of the alien creature. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Dorsal tubes, the mystery about the Xenomorphs. To think that Ridley Scott must be proud of this monster creation, the Xenomorph, is an understatement, because he created one of the most popular creatures in cinema history. The amount of development measures the fact that it was a success in the lore that the arc of the Alien franchise has had over the years, just based on the design of the Xenomorph. A lot of detailing and focus went into the process of creating the Xenomorphs, and the mind of H.R. Giger and Ridley Scott were roped into this extensive process. Scott was very clear about this design, as he had mentioned, "I've never liked horror films before, because in the end, it's always been a man in a rubber suit." Well, there's one way to deal with that. The most important thing in a film of this type is not what you see, but the effect of what you think you saw. Well, it's hard to disagree with Scott, because the idea that there's a man inside a rubber suit has always managed to take away from the fear that the rubber suit managed to bring. That's why Ridley Scott walked away from the generic monster design and picked up Giger's Necronomicon. And thus we had one of the most iconic designs in horror history. They ensured that the design was so distinct that even if you picked something that did feel like an organism you'd seen before, it had a completely different purpose. Take the tail of the Xenomorph. It does feel like a design inspired by the scorpion's tail with the sharp end, but it turns out that it isn't supposed to be for poisoning, and in turn it can pierce through anything and has the strength and motor functions to pick up a human being without any trouble. But another distinct feature of the character design involves a feature that makes the creature feel a lot more biomechanical than you would have thought it was. We're talking about those exotic dorsal tubes that immediately give the beast a completely otherworldly appearance. It's no wonder that the idea of a xenomorph and its entire species feels like an engineered killing machine that can get rid of a whole population, and the fact that they have some dorsal tubes that look like exhaust pipes also add to the engineered appearance. The mechanical aspect might feel weird, but somehow they manage to fit into the aesthetic of the creature perfectly. In Giger's own words, "I always wanted my alien to be a very beautiful thing, something aesthetic. A monster isn't just something disgusting, it can have a kind of beauty. Every time the characters come across the Xenomorph, they're stupefied by the beauty of the design, and then it's followed by a brutal killing." So you gotta agree with Giger on that. Designing the tubes. Now, there are a lot of resources that point toward the various aspects of the character's design, with debates about the look and feel between the director and the production team, but there's hardly anything available regarding the design of these dorsal tubes. Whatever we do get to hear is almost like an excuse for putting them up, and even then, there wasn't much debate to put them up. According to the initial designs, 4 backpipes were put in, along with a headrest protrusion to balance the elongated head of the creature. Even though it always remained in the back, visual effects artist Dan O'Bannon wanted them to appear to be popping out of the chest of the alien. It was Scott's call, and he once again went back to Necronom 4 and stuck to the original plans and sources. Later, during the making of Alien 3, Giger stated, "These tubes on the back, I did them to balance the long skull, if the alien has to stand. But if he's like a beast, then the long head is just over the shoulder. He doesn't need anything supporting." Yep, these tubes were completely removed, and on a much simpler tone, Giger stated, "I built my new Alien 3 full-size in my basement, eliminating the useless pipes on the back, adding razor-like lion claws between his fingers, and a new lethal tongue." Now, even though Giger felt like it was a useless addition to the design of the character, once something's canon, it does continue to be part of the lore, and that's why these dorsal tubes have continued to appear in the movies and other media that the franchise has expanded to. Even the latest entry to the franchise, Alien Romulus, featured some version of this aspect through the freak that was the Offspring. A cross between human, xenomorph, and engineer, the Offspring had 4 holes in the back, which was a hint that it didn't have fully grown tubes, but it did have the dorsal holes. Purpose of these dorsal tubes. Based on how this feature was designed, it becomes clear that little purpose was given to them, but over the years, a wide variety of interpretations and theories have allowed us to speculate on the possible functions of these dorsal tubes. The first amongst these was something that we already explored with the designers, talking about balancing out the huge head and the elongated body. These tubes ended up countering the weight of these elongated features, thus help with maintaining the agility and control during the creepy moments, where we see the creature running around and moving inside the narrow passages. But Alien isolation ended up highlighting a completely different aspect that might just be the very feature that fans might connect with the most. According to the game, there are several moments where the spines are seen vibrating during moments of seeking heightened awareness and providing what is being called the Xenomorph vision to the creature. So there's a chance that the tubes can pick cues from the change in air pressure, sound waves, or slight vibrations, and make for a secondary sensory system for the creature. It adds to the existing creepiness of the character and, at the same time, allows the beast to avoid any threat to itself in confined spaces. Now, a similar yet different purpose has been assigned to the Xenomorph variant, known as the carriers, which involves providing nourishment to any attached organism. According to this lore, the spines secrete a nutrient called Xenomorph that provides the facehuggers that the creature is carrying to survive long distances of travel. The facehuggers can easily die if they haven't managed to serve their purpose, and the carrier must have managed to evolve with the idea of helping them out during long-distance travel and thus facilitate their development in such situations. It could connect to some larger purpose that the nutrient must play in the hive-building process, therefore making the feature an essential part. There's also the possibility that these tubes can extract these nutrients from the air or other prey and then sustain their metabolism. Another contribution that has been associated with these tubes is that they produce the cocooning resin used in the construction of the hives. So yeah, they could be making the chemicals or raw materials that could be used to harden the shells of the cocoons and allow them to maintain them. This factor strongly supports the idea of how the creature and its multiple features play an essential role in ensuring maximum efficiency in the future of the Xenomorphs. Other takes on these tubes have been regarding some sort of respiratory filter that has also been shown in some of the stories and games. Basically, the tubes can extract anything from the environment that helps in their survival. At the same time, it can use the tubes to find dissolved oxygen to breathe underwater for longer periods. Another interpretation saw that the tubes behaved like snorkels that could allow the creature to keep breathing when the body is submerged. And then there are the defensive and attacking functions that these features have, leading to a completely different interpretation. It seems that in the Queen Xenomorphs, the tubes end up having some spike-like protrusions that turn them into a defensive role, so it can help in protecting the Queen's neck and other vulnerable parts from being attacked by the enemy, and it also helps in giving her a more royal and distinguished feature in comparison to the other Xenomorphs. At the same time, keeping up with the carrier's role of helping in providing the facehuggers with Xenomorph, the tubes can also help in launching multiple facehuggers at the targets. It might sound a bit funny, but think about the tactical adaptiveness of this feature at a time when the creature is securing its survival. Losing the dorsal tubes, an adaptive feature. It seems that over time, this feature has slowly disappeared, even though some bits of it are still visible in other types of Xenomorphs. The runners and prowlers don't have the dorsal tubes at all, and it somewhat makes sense considering they're more dedicated to having good speed and maneuver without having much drag or weight, making for some rather fearsome hunters. But then there are the sentries and crushers who seem to have some rendition of these tubes, which might adhere to their necessity in a different type of functionality for the Xenomorph itself. So it's quite clear that there has been some selective evolution for the Xenomorph and its relationship with the dorsal tubes based on the type of role the creature has to play. Marvelous verdict. The first time I saw these tubes, they reminded me of the header pipes, or mufflers from bikes, and I felt that they just ensured the management of body heat inside the creature. That would somewhat make sense because they have an acidic fluid flowing through their body, and having some sort of mechanism like that might become necessary. But then there were other moments when I felt like they had a completely different purpose. What do you think was the reason behind these dorsal tubes? If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!